see what I got to do is that when this button is flashing, I don't have any sound. So thank you guys. I just have to remind you that it's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. I don't think I said it very well. Am I still going with the no audio? This can't be. Bingo, we're good? Because this is supposed to be an important show. Oh, and it already is, because I can see that the people that are here, I am excited to share what I have to share. Let's start sharing. I'm going to go ahead and sound is fair. Okay. Nobody can worry more about that than me. Check this out. We got some pictures from today. Let's see what we got. Hey, these look like pictures from. Oh, here's one. Some new ones. Hey, Americans were enthralled by a climax in the life of a love child who claims she has known her 21 years. The eugenics crusade. Her mom had her sterilized, told her doctors to find out if she's an imbecile or not. Because, well, if she couldn't have children, she would inherit millions, not her. So her mom had her sterilized. That could only happen in a time when eugenics ruled the world. If they were going to continue to cull the unfit, these white people, that's who they're talking about. These were normal people that worked at the records department, for the eugenics department, for the United States of America. That was a big deal. The I was watching this video, and it talked about how come they had so much trouble when they wanted to get at Nuremberg tell hey, all you Nazis are bad. And the Nazis said, we learned it from you. And they went, oh, shoot. Are you kidding me? And they showed him the proof that even Mein Kampf quoted the Virginia state constitution about how good eugenics was and forced sterilization. So, they came up with another plan. Let's hide history. Let's consider United States might have had a few problems, but what actually they were seeking to create mutants. These are the pictures. We haven't gotten to the show yet. I couldn't decide. Could I go with this thumbnail? Because she's a plain woman who enjoyed sex with multiple partners all of her life, but she wanted to exterminate the Negro population, as I guess that is how they referred to black people, is what we call them today. Some people call them the remnants of the tribe of Judah. That one, that's the thumbnail. This one here, I'm there like, that's too small to read. This light flashes every 15 seconds. Some moron is born, a criminal. This one is crime was committed every 50 seconds. That does. Oh, you're committed to jail every 50 seconds. Not too small, too busy. Okay, this guy. So the whole idea, his voice cracking like a 13-year-old boy. The whole idea of eugenics was they could bring about the millennial kingdom on earth. Huh. They were very post-millennial in the 1800s. They were very post-millennial. There's a definition for that word, preterist and post-millennial. The preterist post-millennials of the 1800s thought eugenics could help bring about the millennial kingdom. We know it was already over. They had the Nazi training camps. These are the known locations of just one group, the German-American Bund. Was that it? They were very proud of their racial heritage. They taught the Nazis how to do it when the Nazis were growing and everybody was happy, happy, happy to be white, white, white. Another picture from something we'll probably not get to. This is Ottawa. Oh, the grisly history of the Rideau Canal. It's right in the heart of not Texas, but Canada. That's Canadiana. This interesting looking gentleman talks about this engineering marvel built to defend against Americans in the 1830s. It's a lot like the Erie Canal, one of Ella Rose's favorite topics nowadays. Hey, here's a series of pictures. Look at this thing here. The famous Randy sent me this. You know, RJ, famous Randy from Wisconsin. Look where my mouse is. This is a door, and it's a slow motion video. Could be fake, could be real, but he knows I love the Giants Causeway. Took a second and a half. Did it blow open or what the heck? This is just a series of photos that shows you, hey, how can you have 18 thumbs up and only 2 views? Look, I know. I get it. They do that shadow ban thing. It's just one of those, you know, it's never going to show like, wow, people like your videos, you know. I have to just go on and teach, act like got something to say. Francis Galton, the father of eugenics and the cousin of Charles Darwin, whose family bred with the Wedgwoods, open parentheses, Blais Jasper, La Femme. The Wedgwoods are the ceramic masters. They provided all of the plates and things that were people liked. Hey, starting with the Bible verse, for the day of the Lord is near for all nations. They, at that time, they were going to have a judgment. It says, as you have done, so will it be done to you. Your recompense will return upon your own head, because it's not kismet, karma, fate. You reap what you sow. Because of the violence against your brother Jacob, you will be covered with shame and cut off forever. Obadiah. Chapter 1, the only chapter, verse 10. On the day you stood aloof, while strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered his gate, you cast lots for Jerusalem. You were just like one of them. But you should not gloat in that day. You should not gloat in that day, your brother's day of misfortune, nor rejoice over the people of Judah in the day of their destruction, nor boast proudly in the day of their distress. You should not enter the gate of my people in the day of their disaster, nor gloat over their affliction in the day of their disaster, nor loot their wealth. Nor should you stand at the crossroads to cut off their fugitives, nor deliver up their survivors in the day of distress. And the mafias of the world did that after World War II. It was terrible. We'll get into it some other time. Hey, the New World Order. They tell you what's good, what's not. They've got it figured out. They want you on board. This is an article from that mainstream news, MSN. The religious beliefs that science has debunked, but people still cling to. I'm clinging to the flat earth. Well, mostly treated as a modern fringe belief, the idea of a flat earth has roots in certain ancient religious interpretations, like the Bible. It teaches the earth is, a flat plane. But Popular Science magazine notes that there have been irrefutable proofs of the earth's spherical shape. Now listen, The third one here, photos from space, dubious. The physics of gravity, density, and the simple observation of ships disappearing hull first over the horizon. One of the first things that the flat earthers did was get out a telescope and go, hey, now I can see the rest of the ship. It's still flat. Boom, bop-a-doo, bop-a-ding, bop, boom, bop, ding. Hey, did Christians really teach that illness or disability is the result of sin or demonic influence, or is that religious beliefs of some other religion? Because that's ridiculous. Bible doesn't teach that. Homosexuality is unnatural or a choice. Christianity teaches that, and it condemns. The Bible says no same-sex marriages. So, that's what we believe. That song that came out in the 1990s, was it? That Katy Perry, I Kissed a Girl, and she liked it. Well, she found out later she got a sexually transmitted disease and was passing it around, and a lot of people lived a diminished life. It's not the unintended consequences are never played out to the teenage mind. The human body contains an immaterial soul. Why would the soul be considered immaterial? I thought somebody said it weighs 23 grams or something like that. Or there's no consensus of opinion on that one. So stop science. You haven't proved, and it's not debunked in my book. Certain events or people are definite miracles, defying natural explanation. Right. Absolutely. Well, the sun revolves around the earth on a flat plane model. And no, I don't care if we have an accurate map or not. It's more accurate than yours, you non-narrow road believer who will never be convinced. So I'm not even going to bother because you know not what you do. I don't know if whatever's a day to the Lord, literal day, 6 days, whatever you want it to be, Jesus Christ created it out of nothing. Science completely contradicts the existence of a higher power. Okay, well, I don't think so. I think that the beginning of science, wisdom, that word means the same thing, is the understanding there is a God and he's going to judge us. Defy are definitely real. Well, I do know that the Bible never said astrology is stupid. It says it's condemned, don't use it. Yeah, I believe that too. The earth is the center of the universe. Prayer can heal any physical ailment. If it's the Lord's will, he can bring him back from the dead. That's pretty good. Biological evolution is not real. Nothing could be proven without it for the people on the wrong side of the situation, even though there will be a majority of them on the wrong side. Who doesn't really believe a global flood covered the entire earth as described in the Bible? I mean, come on. They can be humans and dinosaurs coexisted. Those terrible lizards, it's all fake fossils. Oh, the earth is only a few thousand years old. Yeah, probably something like that. I mean, certainly not millions and billions and trillions. This is happening in real time. It's a real biblical thing, man. This is a page on the internet called Bible Hub. I'm looking at 553 Amet's Mighty. There was a conspiracy, was strong. That's was translated the mighty. Not a lot of verses that use it. In heart and mighty in strength. It's not Gibberim, like a mighty man, like you want to be. I know you want to be a Gibberim. You want to be a mighty man before the Lord. These, oh, you don't? You don't even know what I'm talking about here? Well, let's look at Amos chapter 2. In that day shall flee naked of might the men and most strong, Yahweh says. Oh, well, we should read it in English. Even the bravest of the mighty men will flee naked on that day. declares the Lord. The archer will not stand his ground, the fleet of foot will not escape, and the horseman will not save his life. Even the bravest of mighty men will flee naked on that day, declares the Lord. The might, the strength of the mighty men, those men of might on that day, the Gibborim, it's the same thing to me as warriors over the mighty. It's that same one. Boom. There's always going to be Genesis 6:4. It isn't Amos seeming to, say like, wow, even the bravest of the good people will flee on the day of the Lord. And they were the Gibborim, the mighty men. I'm just telling you, some people do not have any idea what they're talking about when they act like they know Genesis 6, verse 4. You can go with whoever you want to believe. I'm telling you, it doesn't mean what you think it means. And what those people who will have you searching bloodlines, oh, thank goodness I don't have no Nephilim blood. You are stained. Your heart is stained. It's not your blood. It's not your blood. It's sin in you, every cell. Chasing bloodlines. Who cares if the communists are making a mighty power grab, depopulation attack on Hawaiians from the communists? Oh,
or other places in which lodgings are regularly furnished to transients. And a transient is a person who is staying or working in a place for a short time. They don't say anything in here about non-locals only. This seems to apply to locals. Think about like,
who knows even what this guy is yapping about. He normally isn't, he's a fairly reliable guy, but that's the thing. We hate communists in this country. They hate capitalists in that country. The argument's always, well, true capitalism. It's the same thing communists say. That's the same thing fascists said, and that's the type of government we actually live under. Surprised to see I left that up. The Dutch feign innocence around Black Pete, but the character underlines real racial hierarchies. It's no accident that the attachment to Zwart Piet has deepened since the Netherlands empire disintegrated from 2021, late 2021. It looks like the United States, not the only country. This eugenics racist nonsense was a worldwide phenomenon. I think it started with the Dutch East Indies, the English Tea Company, whatever those guys did. They did it. Is that a boy or a girl? They're just happy being Black Pete. It's not Black Pete. This is the season I dread. How can that be when here in Europe, Christmas is around the corner, children await presents and winter slumber beacons. Winter slumber beacons. Come take a nap. Well, it is because I live in the Netherlands, and Zwart Piet or Black Pete, a simpering, exaggerated cartoon of a black-faced person, is everywhere in the Dutch tradition. Black Pete accompanies Santa Claus, their Santa on his duty. Hey, there they are. The Pope and the people that the boule, they helped him. You want you to be my helper. I'm Black Pete. He is a sidekick and helper, enforcer, and lackey. From the late October onwards, his image, fat red lips, buggy eyes, piratical earrings. He's got earrings like a pirate. And the unyielding, sinister smile is a lot of places, but it certainly is not omnipresent because you didn't know about it. Maybe it's omnipresent in the Dutch bakeries, gingerbread cookies, Black Pete's everywhere. I didn't want to hang out on Black Pete. I'm just telling you, eugenics was a deal, man. Hey, oh no. What's this? Alamosa, Colorado. Listen to this. On November 30th, 1892, on a freight train from Hoboken, New Jersey to Alamosa, Colorado in 1892, Marinius Albus glanced at his wife and children sitting across from him on his seat. They had left the Netherlands. Black Pete might have drove them out. 23 days ago, less than a month, they made it in 1892. Winter's closing in. They'd passed mountains, flatlands, desert-like landscapes, flowing rivers. Alamosa was in the San Luis Valley in south central Colorado. The land here was truly varied and unique from what they knew in their homeland. Could this be the place they make their new home? The pamphlet that guided them on this journey promised acres of land that were prepared for farming and suitable for the crops that they were growing in Europe. They were lied to. They were absolutely lied to. And this is the town that in the location that I've said is the safest place after a worldwide whatever is going to happen that forces the United States into, well, we've all seen that, half the population's going away, and that we owe trillions and other countries don't want to use our petrodollars. We're the bad guys. They were tricked into it. The grand furnished houses described were in fact two poorly constructed wooden buildings. As the next few months chugged along, remember they were getting there in November, the families continually faced truths that the brochures were not true. The climate in the area, although promised to be the Italy of Western North America, was in fact far from it. And it is. It's the mild winters fall to 30 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. Their land was not prepared for farming. They had the spread of disease and their compact living arrangements. It was this man, a recent Dutch immigrant, intrigued by the healthy climate, set out for creating one of the boldest swindles in history. And ladies and gentlemen, while I'm at university dealing with the remnants of the people whose parents were those suckers who came out here to the frickin' middle of nowhere. And that's why I'm here. And I'm not trying to sell you anything else. You need to find a place like this because something's coming. We've been telling you for years, you've known it in your hearts. In the United States, and that should affect the rest of the world, whether it's going to be martial law, but the dollar is going to collapse. We're not going to make it. The whole movement, and I'm going to show you, it was a worldwide movement after Armageddon, after the 1,000 years, for whatever we got going here. The whole plan was, let's rule the world, white people. And not that white people are any worse than black people. There are no good race. There are no good people. There are no, I don't got no Nephilim blood. We all have sin that God has either cast into the ocean metaphorically, or he's dealt with it. He's covered by the blood of our God, the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Hola, Marcella. I don't know Marmari, but Ella, was glad to see you and the nation that she lives in. They're certainly going in it. And now I have never, I don't know who Bishop Marmari is. Is that something that I should look into? or should he look into what we got going here? I don't really know, but I know we got something really going on here that leads to a lot of truth and salvation in Christ Jesus Christ. Bishop Marmari sounds very interesting. I would like to see more. Let's keep going. So these Dutch immigrants, it was the boldest swindle in history, and Zoutman wasted no time in building his land company. He arranged for $1,000 to be paid, promised in the future for the rights to 15,000 acres of land in Alamosa, enlisted several well-known men in the Netherlands to become leaders of his company. And just tell them, go to America, take this thing. It's going to be great. And that's, it is the middle of nowhere. And what I'm telling you is, yeah, come here, do it, but for the right reasons. That this is going to be the hardest place to root out people, because right now you feel like, well, you're a Christian, you're safe. That's not always going to be the case. This is just the proof that you can read through it and find out that, my goodness, everybody knew about it. It is this Holland American Land and Immigration Company, which is a very hard group to get information on. But they were busy here. They were busy in South Africa, everywhere, spreading white power. It was different in South Africa because the whites were in power, but they were the minority. It was worse in the United States. The white were the vast majority, and they are vastly bullies who took advantage of people who were equal to them mentally, physically, and capably. Only legally they were not protected. Moving on, next tab, the Holland Company purchase and its early settlements. Holland Land Company was a group of Dutch investors who bought over 3 million acres of land in western New York. You see, why did some people trust those companies? Well, the first ones, Chattagua, Allegheny, they brought over whole factories of workers, and they set up shop making the knives, folding knives, plates, everything that they needed in this upper belt of New York. And it seemed like, they just sent back, everything's up to date in Kansas City. No, they sent back everything up to date where they were, and they were loving it. And those, if you can still find like Green River knives, a kitchen knife from, Cattaraugus, it'd be worth $100 for one knife. Super quality, but I do want to keep it short. It was life in early Buffalo. Come on, people. Now, Buffalo is a mud flood city. Let's keep going here. Here's that weird video.
Look.
Got a little puff of dust there at the end.
Look.
Did it blow open? Is it fake? Come on, people now. Smile on your brother.
Apart in public spaces. In fact, the whole structure of racism in America had broad popular support.
Fair use.
In the 1920s, one of the biggest organizations in the United States was the Ku Klux Klan.
Women of the Ku Klux Klan, didn't it say? This whole deal was set up so they could say women were a big part of they couldn't stand those black people like Margaret Sanger. It just
kept white and black people apart in public spaces.
They wanted their own race.
In fact, the whole structure of racism in America had broad popular.
The whole argument changed, Yeah. They used to have to, white women who, according to some people today, are one of the most persecuted minorities ever in history. I don't remember them ever not having to drink from separate fountains. I remember them being right behind their husbands going like, keep those people away from me.
In the 1920s, one of the biggest organizations in the United States was
I don't think this little Gayville, New York, or Sayville, or Saville was the only women's club.
the Ku Klux Klan, which was not only anti-Black, it was anti-Jew, it was anti-immigrant.
Or through Jim Crow. The body of laws as well as habits and customs that kept white and Black people apart in public spaces. In fact, the whole structure of racism in America had broad popular support.
Very broad.
In the 1920s,
very
one
popular.
of the biggest organizations.
Communism was the answer. But others were very, very worried that revolutionaries were coming, that property would be abolished, and this infection would...
This is what was going on in our world, not anything else. This is our recent history. The world was trying to be made white. The United States ended up with the remnants of them, and they founded NASA, DARPA, and they got this thing going right now where it looks like, oh my gosh, they want to go underground and start another reset. But this is the last reset. You're going to be the problem. You'll be safer than most people in Alamos, although it gets cold in the winter. But oh my goodness, people, it is so beautiful here for 7.5 months out of the year. And the rest of the time, the sun, it gets down to, get down to 30 degrees below zero, but almost every day in Alamos, the temperature goes up above freezing. Look at that's the Bellamy salute that was perfected in the United States and used by the Nazis. The Bellamy salute started in the United States. We didn't put our hand over our heart when we said the Pledge of Allegiance then. We did the Bellamy salute. Rudolph Hess, friends of Aleister Crowley, Ian Fleming tried to stop it. Did he really die alone in his cell? Will we ever know? What is the hidden hand?
The number 2 Nazi leader was looking at the American situation and saying, how are we going to offset this? And so he helped create the Friends of New Germany.
The membership card in the Friends of the New Germany. Note the American emblem, and over it, the Nazi swastika.
People joined.
Oh my goodness, it's time to start acting like we're outraged instead of the whole country agreed with it and we had the laws that the Nazis company that even Adolf Hitler quoted in his book Mein Kampf. We're shocked, we're appalled, we're going to deny it ever happened.
Fighting to exterminate Jewish, international, atheistic Bolshevism.
The German-American Bund starts very deliberately cloaking itself in the explicit symbols of Americanness. George Washington.
I mean, really, did he even really exist? Was everything faked? I think so. I really think it's just it's absolutely insanity. Mutants, like in that movie, the X-Men. Gonna fly now.
The movement from sterilization to extermination, the killing of several millions based on this kind of idea of the betterment of human race. And it creates a vast embarrassment for the American eugenics movement.
People were repelled and began to turn away from eugenics. And
because it's like, oh my gosh, how did I get painted as one of the bad guys? We've got to go. They're bad. We can't stand them. 24 top Nazis indicted for murder and plunder. Well, they fought against it, saying we learned it from you.
Eugenics became a dirty word.
The Holocaust being tied to a wide range of eugenic practices is a blemish on humans as a species.
It certainly is. Now, I know that you're going to say, well, you know, we didn't do it, I didn't do it. They all did it. And the people who denied it and said, why are we covering it up? They got lobotomied. Get off of your, love of country and you are a citizen of a heavenly city, I hope. Hope you are. After the War of 1812, information was received about the United States' plan to invade the British colony of Upper Canada from upstate New York by following the St. Lawrence River. Oh my goodness. This is how they go. So we've got to build a canal, the Rideau Canal. Let's build it. Was it hard? Not really. They just cleaned it out. They found it, everyone. Like everyone has always found the ancient cities, rebuilt them, and said, aren't we good? Aren't we good? From the 1830s, we planned this, and now we're safe from the United States and those terrible white people that might want to attack our white country. You know, the locks they're just amazing, are they not? Do they not look like the Erie Canal? Do they not look like Buffalo, New York? Just make them look, put some siding on it. They won't know that corner. How old is that? How old are these? You know, these buildings are going to make it. Even this wood, I don't know too many people that can do that today. And this is probably going to last a long time too. I don't know. I like pictures too. But today, you know, hockey game on Christmas Day, it's a tradition. It's been a tradition for, 100 years. Peterson's spade mill, water power spade mill in northern Ireland, initially a flax and corn mill, by beating it. They had to beat it. BEETING, beating it from the National Trust. The last operating in situ beating mill, the spade mill. Okay. The family previously connected to the other, as you know, one of the Bushmills distillery. Okay. Well, they got in on everything, and certain people hit the ground running after 1711, didn't they? Earliest map of the sites from the 1770s showed the building were connected by the head race and the tail race. They had it working. What do we know about them? What is beetling? The pounding of linen or cotton fabric to give a flat, lustrous effect. You want to wear that plain clothing, but we wanted to make a look at a little bit more lustrous. Beading was a textile finishing method of obtaining a pleasing finish, an aesthetic finish, a luster in cotton or linen-based fabrics. Within Ireland, making linen that way was first introduced in 1725. Beetling is part of the finishing of linen cloth. Okay. I don't know what fulling is, but it's also known as walking, a step in woolen cloth making which involves the cleansing of woven cloth to eliminate oils, dirt, and impurities. It looks like it was something the women did with their feet and hands, working in tandem together. You go, fullers. Joshua 24:19. Oh, you are not able to serve the Lord, for he is a holy God. He is a jealous God. He will not forgive your transgressions or your sins. I think that's from an earlier Bible study. We're going to go, so that's not one I wanted. Now, who is this? Now we're back live. We're back with it. Satan. Satan. To be or act as an adversary, They oppose. They are mine adversaries. Let them be consumed. They are the adversaries. They are my accusers. This is a weird Bible verse, Zechariah 3, verse 1. And it was Wahasatan. That's a one-of-one usage, standing by the word we just looked at, the adversary, one who withstands Satan. First used in Numbers 22:22. I've come out as an adversary. Let's look at that verse. Then the angel showed me Joshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, with Satan standing at his right hand to satan him, accuse him. He is that accuser. That same verse, his eyes falling, uncovered his eyes into a trance, but having his eyes opened, he sat in an open place. This is that word for eyes, 28 times out of all of these usages. An eye. You'll see it, that it looks good. Your eyes will be opened if you eat that sinful thing. It's one of those type of situations. Zechariah 3:9. See the stone I have set before Joshua? On that one stone are 7 eyes. Behold, I will engrave on it an inscription, declares the Lord of hosts, and I will remove the iniquity of this land in a single day. I know we're going to be talking about racism and things, but I do want to know, I've been studying the book of Zechariah. I went through it a number of times today, and I still want how is this talking about anything except how the people will be reestablished in the second temple? The rebuilt city of Jerusalem, the second temple. This whole book with Darius and how it's mentioned is everything. It is a book of not anything to do with what they say. Jesus will stand on the earth as the mountain, and when it splits, that's proves that he rules on a throne from Jerusalem. Man, they got the book of Zechariah all messed up. Zechariah 5:7. And behold, the cover of lead was raised, and there was a woman sitting inside the basket. The woman sitting in the basket. And he said to this woman, that is wickedness. And he thrust her back into the basket and thrust down the laden weight on its opening again. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw 2 women approaching with the wind in their wings. Come on, you really got the book of Zechariah all pegged down to it proves that Jesus Christ split the earth when he came back, and he's going to rule for 1,000 years on a throne in a fake Jerusalem. You don't know this book. I think you're erring because you don't, you just believe the first thing that somebody told you and go like, wow, Zechariah is teaching that Jesus is going to rule from that throne. He said to me, to the land of Shinar, to build a house for it. And when it is prepared, they will set the basket down there on its base. I looked up again and saw 4 chariots coming from between 2 bronze mountains. Yeah, I believe you have Zechariah figured out. I really do. Take an offering from the exiles, Hildai, Tobiah, and Jedediah, who have arrived from Babylon, and go that same day to the house of Josiah, son of Zephaniah. I have no idea why I pulled that one up, but it's up there. There's a word I wanted to look into it. In Judges 5:3, it is that mighty, strong men. They were mighty men. Now let's look at these people. Who are they talking about? Zechariah 10:7. In that day, Ephraim will be like a mighty man, and their hearts will be glad as with wine. Their children will see it and be joyful. Their hearts will rejoice in the Lord, because Jerusalem was being rebuilt, the place where Jesus would come back to, and everything would be fulfilled. Now, Ephraim was acting like a mighty man. You know, and we showed that, we looked at the word. He was a mighty. Well, it's a one of one use, but it's a root from, it. And do you know really anything about Genesis 6:4 without what the people who would have you believe that every time Gibberine is used, it means Nephilim? It means they're a mighty men. They were bad. They were angels mating with humans, and then they became Nimrod, and who's mentioned a whole 3 times in the Bible, and he's called strong. He's a mighty one. Like most of the time, when the Gibborim are used, it's good guys. It's the good guys. So stop it. They err because they know not the scripture, and the people that, they tell you something and you hear it and you go like, wow, those dong Gibborim. Everybody should worry about their own being born with a sin nature. This is a leftover from this morning's sermon. That's right. We talked about downtown, where all the lights are bright downtown. It was playing when they blew up those mystery buildings with no windows in them. Okay, so that was another one. This is from earlier this morning. Bear with me now, these champs. We got a lot of new info here.
The cost had been declining for a decade. Most farmers had taken loans to make up shortfalls, and their mortgages were likely to be held by bankers back east. And there were few laws to stop the most predatory lenders from charging 20, 30, or even 50% interest per year. The cost of transporting crops to market, meanwhile, remained an onerous burden.
So all these people during, that time period, millions were tricked into coming to the United States under false promises. But here we are, and believe me, you can do it. There are places in the United States where when something, whatever happens, and it's going to happen, you'll be safer than other places. Huh. Hey, thanks for that, Ella. The Eugenics Record Office, Cold Harbor, New York, that's where it was located, a research institute that gathered biological and social information about the entire American population. Because it's the United, from 1910 to 1939, they needed a Eugenics Record Office because that's how serious we took. White people don't drink out of the same fountains as black people. You know that. I know that. And those American people believed it. I don't. I think that we're all tongues and tribes, every nation are my brothers. Of course, it was established by the Carnegie people, the ones that supposedly they rewrite the history, and all the mud flood buildings, they just slap his name on and say, he did it. He did it. They did it. The United States did it for 30 years, 1910 to 40 years. That's a generation. Wow. It's 29 years, 30 years. Same people. Davenport, father of eugenics. The eugenics movement was so popular and viewed as so progressive in the early 1900s. Charles Davenport was one of the leaders of this campaign and avidly believed that it was necessary to apply Mendelian genetic principles to humans. And Gertrude totally said, this is so important, it's even part of the women's movement. And they made it a part of the women's movement. Harriman, Carnegie, Rockefeller, it's those guys. It was forced sterilization. It was their friendship with Hitler. The Red Cross are not the good guys. This was our recent history. Why would you need a eugenics record office for that long? And then you just kind of deny it and then say it wasn't that important, or we learned our lesson and it's okay now. Says who? The eugenics record office. Some people are born to be a burden on the rest. This is what they were passing out. This is what the United States government said. This is what we believe and want you to believe in our white power country world. Enter a 1920s office with oak table, rolls of file drawers, forms, and reports, and blah, blah, blah. The sound of shuffling papers lurking within every detail of this immersive installation are the faces of American eugenics, the progressive leaders who crafted a vision of mass sterilization to bring in the preterist post-millennial dream of that once we get rid of all of these human weeds, Jesus will come back, because they don't believe the 1,000 years is already over. The post-millennial and the preterists don't believe that. Pretamillennialists believe that, if you care what words mean. If your ears are open to hear the truth. Drawing from primary source material, the book Haunted Files, the Eugenic Records Office reimagines the Eugenics Record Office, transporting visitors to the epicenter of American eugenics research and propaganda. Here, eugenicists channeled progressive era ideals of rational thought. That's the Enlightenment. I mean the Enlightenment, to where Greek loving republics and democracies could be argued about for the rest of your life. They could chart social progress using statistics and state management toward the pursuit of, open quote, race betterment, close quote. And they were defending Anglo-American racial purity. That was the overarching, all you white countries, America wasn't alone doing this. Everyone thought it was. I have so much information on this that I am convinced that it needs to be picked up by some of the, the people who do the mud flood history but don't want to touch on the controversial aspects. Well, you can get a lot of mileage out of this one. Will you look at the Eugenics Record Office for me, por favor? Get the word out there that America wasn't all it's cracked up to be. It's hard. You might have to find some paywalls and some things like that. But here's some images, archives of the American eugenics movement. They're out there. They got social origins, scientific origins, how they did it, the traits that they studied, the research flaws, popularization, marriage laws, sterilization, immigration restriction. Yow. Wow. It was these guys. Rose in the 1900s, two wings of a common philosophy of human worth. It was Francis Galton who coined the term eugenics in 1883, perceived it as a moral philosophy to improve humanity. I thought that you could click on those and they would enlarge. So disestablishments in 1939, that's when they had to get rid of the Eugenics record office and cover it up in the United States. You know, also some fur workers, you know, the fortnightly labor journal for the fur workers union. They didn't need that anymore. They didn't need Dunton Station Tunnel anymore. They didn't need this post office and courthouse in New York City anymore. They didn't need the Bronx Yankees. They had the New York Yankees. They didn't even need this railroad station. It just seems like, why even have this golf tournament? I don't know. The Vanguard Group, we don't need them anymore. The New York Hippodrome, they didn't need that anymore. The theater opened from 1905 and closed in 1939 and was called the largest theater by the builders. And you could go to the movie with 5,300 other people. How big was our world? How populated was it? Very, very recently. Very, very recently. So here are eugenics organizations, because I didn't want you to think that it was only the Human Betterment League or the Ku Klux Klan. You know, they were all over the world. You know, we got the British eugenics. That's a category of their own. International Federation of Eugenics, founded in 1912. Racial Hygiene of South Wales. The world was focused on proving to everyone white power. The Enlightenment was right. We should forget about the Christian God, go with the God of nature, back to Greek, and we'll just fight over republic or democracy for the rest of our lives. Well, State Institute for Racial Biology. So the United States wasn't the only one. Of course, Sweden had one. You know, they say it was in 1922, but if we read down here a little bit longer, you know, it goes back like 1909. Of course, it's the same situation, and that's the cover-up. It's big as a cover-up. It's Flat Earth Nation. These are other situations of what is Nordicism. What is all this white? Well, Christian identity, Ku Klux Klan, and Nazism. That's Nordic. That's like, well, you know, if you think about it, though, where would we be without those blonde-haired, blue-eyed Germans and the Dutch? Where, you know, they are the true Ubermensch, the real men. They're not the bad people. Madison Grant, a name you're going to need to know, famous for being a science man, scientific racism, white gods, belief of ancient cultures that they were visited by white races. Could that have been perpetrated upon the world and not necessarily true? Cultural belief system that was developed by the intellectuals in the 1800s. There was no real proof of it until they developed it. It's predominantly a product of certain Anglo-American societies. It was an important racial belief system in the late 1800s, early 1900s, a recent history that we don't focus on enough. We don't know what happened just in our recent history. Oh my goodness, they were all in on it. Oh no. Scientific racism, it permeated systemically the body of our corporate identity in the United States. Archaeology, Aryanism, human zoos, philosophardism in Spain, anthropological science, Ashkenazi Jewish intelligence, the bell curve, mongrel in our midst, Melanin. They were tirelessly working to convince people, look, we've got to keep. Do you really want a black person to drink from the same white fountain as you? Do you want them to go to a movie with you? Do you want them to be portrayed in the movie you watch as something that isn't a butler or a taxi driver? That wasn't going to happen, people, because that wasn't the world less than 100 years ago. And if you didn't buy it, if your parents fought back, or if they survived, they didn't get lobotomized, something was going on. And the reason that they did it was because they were trying to prop up the ancient regime as the white people, as the reason that they didn't need God anymore. This was pictures of how they did things back in the day when they were rejecting God formally. And then it was off with their heads and all these other things. But it was always, hey, why are we doing all the work and you're getting all of the money? There was no these years. These are all a lie. They're rewriting it. And whenever they talk about the papacy in history, that's a rewrite. No real world would put up with some church saying, we want to kill them all in the name of God because we love God. And they're like, well, okay, well, we're Christians too, but we don't really approve of the bloody Inquisition. It's all fake, man. It's all to hide our racist past. It's all to hide that Armageddon's over, the 1,000 years ago, where Satan's loosed and it turned into a white power world. And we don't want to admit it. Here's an essay on the inequality of the human races. I had no idea how important this was. It was a racist, pseudoscientific work from the French writer, author de Gavignon, which affected everyone. Well, he argues that the intellectual differences between humans and races, we can just say, oh, that's crazy. They believed it. Hook, line, and sinker. That the civilizations decline and fall when the races are mixed and that the white race is superior. There was no doubt in their mind. Now, expanding on the Bolivar's use of ethnography to defend the ancient regime. That was their whole deal against the claims of the Third Estate. The people are saying, why are we doing all the work and you get all the money? And so these guys explained it. It's because these guys were right. And we're more white. Yeah, you're white, but it doesn't mean you're white. Now, where do we get all of this information? Basically about Genesis 10 and the Table of Nations and their interpretation of it from Josephus. That's where they get it. The first century German historians, Josephus. They explain what you should believe. And the Phrygians, the Phrygian camp, they want to leave that out that, we're the freed slaves. Oop, just had a little coffee spillage here. Thank you, Lord. I'll be cleaning that up shortly. Race Betterment Foundation was a eugenic and racial hygiene organization founded in 1914 at Battle Creek, Michigan by John Harvey Kellogg, the man who is the Seventh-day Adventist poster child for being the greatest Christian that ever lived, endorsed by Ellen White enough to say, well, even if they put sugar in it, let's introduce refined sugar to the American diet. Race degeneracy, it is all. Going back to those people, the false Christians, the people who want you to believe that the world's not flat, that they didn't add 1,000 years, that Ellen White was a real prophet who heard from God, even though, her writings are so similar, and found in her library after her death were the books from Madame Blavatsky. She was a spiritualist. Woman power, look at me, I'm God's prophet. Don't eat pork. Don't eat this. Worship on Saturday. Race Betterment Foundation from its core. It's the same people. These are the people you look up to so much if you're one of those Sabbath day workers. The Human Betterment League was another one. I mean, it wasn't only, the Ku Klux Klan and the others, there were tons. And this one was created after the war. Again, Hanes Underwear, some of these people from the South that have a lot of money. Again, with the Procter & Gamble, the first thing I ever heard was, Procter & Gamble changes its logo because Christians think, why are you using such a satanic logo? And we're just tired of dealing with them, so we'll change it. It's these people after 1947. And promoting male and female sterilization for eugenic purposes. And when they couldn't get that, they probably just said, let's just put the propaganda out where people quit breeding because they're all bad. They're all bad. It changed its name to the Human Genetic League and disbanded in 1988 because they don't need it anymore.
Repelled and began to turn away from eugenics. And eugenics became a dirty word.
But it wasn't always.
Science of heredity. He asked Davenport to guide him in making his own study of feeble-mindedness.
Like lots of people who are working in institutions, doctors or social workers, Henry Goddard was interested in identifying the kinds of conditions that were passed down in heredity and preventing them.
And what do we know? We know that they're completely out of their mind. Oh, I don't have my thing up, huh? Well, that's anyway. Got no need to look at me anyway. So that's where we're at. It is a racist world. That's how it happened. It's been the cover up. It is also very, very recent. And it's going to happen. I'm not trying to tell you come to Alamosa and it's going to be a utopian. We are still with sin. By the sweat of our brow is the only way. And working hard to not be blotted out of the book of life is our lifelong job. This is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because mud flood was Armageddon. Join us in this morning at 7 o'clock Mountain Time. RJ and I are going to be going over the Bible and trying to wake people up to the fact that it's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because mud flood was Armageddon. And that's why me and my friends are never going to tell you anything else. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao.